Welcome to today's episode of Forward Thinking Founder Stories, brought to you by Fox Williams. Our Founder Stories series shines a light on the remarkable journeys of underrepresented founders. As part of our ongoing efforts to support diverse entrepreneurial talent, we've created a platform where these inspiring people share their stories, lessons learned, and the unique challenges they've overcome. Throughout this series, we'll delve into the personal business journeys of our guests, explore pivotal moments that shape their success, and uncover invaluable insights for other aspiring entrepreneurs. In today's episode, we're joined by Thembisa, founder of Caspian Films. She shares her story and journey to becoming a founder. We hope you find this conversation as inspiring as we did when recording it. Now, without further ado, let's get into it.
I'm Thembisa Cochrane and I run Caspian Films. We're a film production company.
Lovely. So to start, Thembisa, I wonder if you could just sort of tell us about your journey towards becoming a founder?
Yeah, so I've moved to London from South Africa 15 years ago, and I started working for two young men who had founded a business. So I was the third hire, and I saw behind the scenes of what all of that meant, and I'd always been really driven to make films. So I went off and learnt, again, as an employee of a small business, all about the film production side of things, and then in the end started my own company, met my co-founder. I think that was a crucial moment. I met the person that I felt could really support me, and then the two of us decided we would do this and do it together.
Yeah.
So
aside from sort of meeting your co-founder, are there any other sort of pivotal moments or breakthrough moments that you can sort of reflect on since you've sort of begun your founding journey?
So yes, we do. We make films. So for us, every single one of our films is like launching its own little business. So a lot of the business side feels very familiar. And we we've completed 3 feature films to date, and every one of them has been a significant milestone. Just finishing it every single time has helped us enormously.
And so, what are your kind of long-term visions for the business? What are your goals, and how do you maybe hope to kind of get yourself to those?
So we have been working and revenue generating since 2019, and we have always just wanted to make films and keep making films, but specifically films directed by women, and those are often stories centering women, but not always. Sometimes it's a woman wants to talk about men, that's fine as well. And so we basically have reached the point now, which is our first time that we're going out for investment, where we are seeing a lot of films lined up that are looking very promising. So our development slate is kind of bearing fruit, and the position we have in the market is a very exciting one. So we've got a few projects, one in particular that's very prestigious and has been announced. So we're in this moment right now where we hope we can seize the opportunity to get a little bit of extra funding, support ourselves, because we are 2 people, and give ourselves a little bit of resource to push forward and just keep growing. And what we'd love to do in the end is become a brand, actually, that consumers recognize, so that they can see it's a Caspian Films production. We want to see it in the same way that we've seen a distributor in America called A24. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them, but a lot of people have. Yeah. And we want to do for production what A24 has done for distribution, which is even more boring. So we should be able to do it as a production company.
And so I suppose it's sort of a filmmaker first, is that fair to say? Or
yeah, I love film. I love film, but I think in the last, specifically, I think pivotally last year, I was part of a industry initiative called Inside Pictures, which is a producer and executive training program, and I really felt the switch in my appetite from loving film to actually loving the prospect of creating a business. And that's where we are now. I still love film, so I'm glad my business makes films, but I am very ambitious for it.
Yeah, great. And who has been your sort of biggest mentor or support since you've sort of been on your journey?
I love my mentors. So I had, early in my career, I had a man who ran the Cape Town Film Studios, and it was my first internship, and he kind of guided me through a lot of career decisions. And then in London, I joined a company called Spear Films, and my boss at that company was just always incredibly supportive and kind of became a role model for how I want to run my career professionally. So yeah, very, very great. And there's been a lot of, right now I think there's a few. Well across the table who are just incredibly supportive of us and our business. So yeah, very valuable people.
Yeah, amazing. And you've already sort of spoken about your specific interest or your sort of specific drive to champion films with women or women's stories. How else do you sort of see the role of diversity and inclusion in your business, and what do you hope to sort of do to really facilitate that across everything that you're doing?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I think we sort of want to make films directed by women, and then everyone just assumes those are films for women or about women, which obviously it doesn't need to be, right? But then, that's one element of diversity, of course, but generally speaking, the last film we made was one made by a woman from Saudi Arabia, which it can sometimes be controversial because, to be honest, the Saudi government did put money into that one, but we felt it should be done. If this woman had grown up under this regime, hadn't had a great time, she deserves a bit of support now. And so the kind of basically anyone we feel who's had an experience where they didn't grow up in the most supported or privileged way really deserves the chance as well to tell their story. And so for us that is really important. And of course, we just think having those stories is really valuable for the world, and diversity just is better. It's great. It makes things better, and it also just creates a better atmosphere on set. So, beyond just women, of course, we hire people from the global majority, and try and tell stories of people who are working class. That's another really important aspect. Film industry is heavily driven by quite elite upper class people. So yeah.
And so in terms of, I think, reflecting, is there any advice that you received that was fantastic advice, or is there any advice that you received that maybe you wish you hadn't received when you were sort of starting out and getting going?
That's a really good question. Okay, so specifically in our area, I think very early on I observed and had a few people reiterate to me that the crucial thing to avoid as a film company is don't have high overheads, stay lean so you can scale back at a moment's notice and keep surviving. And I think that has been absolutely invaluable, and just came up in the session again today. Just, one of the key things being don't pick up overheads if you could at all avoid it, and helped us survive the pandemic, for example, that we were able to completely scale down. So yes, that was one really important thing, I think. The other really important thing, again, in our business is just, of course, relationships. So everything. So if you can build relationships with key creative talent, like writers or directors, you're in towards winning. In terms of bad advice, we've taken some risks, I guess. And I wouldn't say all of them have necessarily paid off. I don't know if that's bad, though. I think this is, again, another positive thing, which I'm sure founders know, but the other thing I always hold on to is that it's okay to you also learn from failure, and it's really okay to have a couple of failed, in our case, films, because you just kind of are growing, so that's really positive. Can't think of any bad advice, probably buried it.
That's good. That's a sign of successful trajectory.
I'm trying.
And I mean, what role has sort of legal advice played in your business journey up to this date, or what role do you hope that it will play as you kind of continue to grow and scale?
So in our projects, we definitely depend on our lawyers. I think the first time I got a quote, I kind of fell off my chair. It was really expensive, but I've really come to value it. And I think particularly, I've worked a lot in South Africa, but particularly in a UK context, I have found that lawyers are far more than just sort of technicians, and that actually the level of support and genuine, they are advisors. They become, people have talked to us recently about taking on board advisors or something, but actually our lawyers can be that. They can really help us make strategic decisions. And so I think I actually very much appreciate the way that law firms work in London. And I think something like today's event is really amazing. It's just wonderful to have a space created like this by a law firm. Cool. It's really supportive and cool. So yeah.
If you're interested in learning more about our upcoming underrepresented female founder events, or how you can get involved in this network, please be sure to check out the episode notes for further details.